Namaskaram friends. So let's discuss some important question from economy and particularly from the Indian economy. So let's discuss our first question. This one is about Hindu rate of growth. So India's growth story from the eve of the independence to the liberalization phase is largely termed as Hindu rate of growth. So what it is? Let's discuss it. Hindu rate of growth was coined to refer to the phenomena of sluggishness in growth rate of Indian economy because during 1950s through 1980s we observed persistently 3.5% of the growth. The term, which owes to Professor Raj Krishna, who is a member of Planning Commission, captured popular imagination and was used synonymously to describe inadequacy of India's growth performance. Second question is regarding formalization of economy. Formalization of the economy means bringing companies under the regulatory regime of government and subject to laws related to manufacturing and income tax. Formalization leads to more tax revenue with an increase in tax to GDP ratio. Formalization provides a level playing field for tax compliant entities, expanding the tax base so that the burden falls more equitably on all the players rather than a select few. Transitioning economy towards formality brings benefits by establishing the rule of law and provide benefits of labor laws to entrepreneurs and workers. It enforces minimum wages and proper documentation of benefits by the employer. Formal jobs also end up ensuring the dignity of labor, enable productivity improvements as well as access to formal training. Next question is regarding consumer durables. So what consumer durables are? Of the final goods, we can distinguish between consumption goods and capital goods. Goods like food and clothing and services like recreation that are consumed when purchased by their ultimate consumers are called consumption goods or consumer goods. We may note here that some commodities like television sets, automobiles, or home computers, although they are for ultimate consumption, have one characteristic in common with capital goods. They are also durable, that is, they are not extinguished by immediate or even short period consumption. They have a relatively long life as compared to articles such as food or even clothing. They also undergo wear and tear with gradual use and often need repairs and replacements of parts. That means, like machines, they are also need to be preserved, maintained, and renewed. That is why we call these goods consumer durables. Now let's move on to the next question. It is about national income and gross value added GVA. National income is not the sum of all incomes earned by Indian citizens, but only those incomes which occur due to participation in the production process. What is GVA? GVA is the sum of a country's GDP and net of subsidies and taxes in the economy. It calculates the national income from the supply side by looking at the value added in each sector of the economy. GVA is defined as the value of output minus the value of intermediate consumption and is a measure of the contribution to growth made by an individual, producer, industry, or sector. It provides the rupee value for the number of goods and services produced in an economy after deducting the cost of inputs and raw materials that have gone into the production of those goods and services. So we can define GVA or gross value added as GDP plus subsidies on production minus taxes on products. Now let's move on to the next question, which is about gross domestic product. So let's discuss it. What does new GDP data shows? This new GDP data include four types of components under GDP. First one is regarding private final consumption expenditure. Second one is government final consumption expenditure. Third, gross fixed capital formation. And fourth, net export. So let's discuss each component individually. The money spent by people in their private capacity. It typically accounts for 56% of all GDP and is called private final consumption expenditure or PFCE. Money spent by companies and government towards making investments such as building a new office, building a new road, etc. It accounts for 32% of the total GDP and is called gross fixed capital formation GFCF. Money spent by the government in its day-to-day expenses such as paying salaries, it accounts for 11% and is called government final consumption expenditure GFCE. Money spent by Indians on foreign goods like imports subtracted from the money spent by foreigners on Indian goods called exports. As India imports more than its exports, so net export is small and negative. So we called GDP as a sum of all these four factors: private final consumption expenditure, government final consumption expenditure, gross fixed capital formation, and net export. So this is all about today's discussion. I hope you love the discussion, you enjoy the discussion and gain some knowledge, some perspective out of it. So let's revise the whole topic of each and every question. First one is related to Hindu rate of growth. Second one is regarding formalization of economy. Third one is regarding consumer durables. Fourth one is regarding national income and gross value added, and fifth one is regarding GDP. So that's all for today's. Namaskaram. Thank you.